If you grew up in the 90s, Rugrats was probably a staple of your childhood. The show was all about the world as seen through the eyes of babies Tommy, Chuckie, Phil, Lil, and Angelica, turning everyday life into wild adventures. But there's a story that's been whispered about for years. A story that never made it to TV. Fans call it Tommy's Missing Tape, and those who claim to know the truth say it's the one episode that was never meant to be found. I first heard about it from a friend who was obsessed with lost episodes and urban legends. He told me that Tommy's Missing Tape was more than just a rumor. According to him, it was a real episode, created early in the show's run, but pulled before it ever aired. The story goes that the episode was discovered on an old VHS tape, hidden in a box of production materials that was supposed to be destroyed. Only a handful of people have ever seen it, and those who have say it's nothing like the rest of the series. The episode supposedly starts with a normal day in the Pickles house. The babies are playing in the living room, and Tommy finds an old video camera in the closet. He decides to make a movie, enlisting the help of his friends. The animation is a little rougher than usual, the colors slightly off, but at first it just feels like an early draft. Tommy runs around the house filming everything he sees, Spike sleeping in the sun, Angelica bossing the babies around, Grandpa Lou snoring in his chair. But as the episode goes on, things start to get strange. The camera's point of view becomes more distorted, the footage jumpy and filled with static. Tommy's voice grows quieter, and the other babies seem to fade into the background. The house gets darker, the shadows longer, and the familiar music is replaced by a low, unsettling hum. Tommy starts to wander through empty rooms, calling out for his friends, but no one answers. Eventually, Tommy finds himself alone in the hallway, the camera still rolling. He opens a door that's never been seen before on the show, a narrow, dark staircase leading down into the basement. The camera shakes as Tommy descends, his footsteps echoing in the silence. At the bottom, he finds a small, dusty room filled with old toys and broken furniture. In the corner, there's a TV, its screen flickering with static. Tommy approaches the TV, and the camera zooms in on his face. For a moment, his eyes look wide and scared, and he whispers, "Where did everybody go?" The screen cuts to black, and for a few seconds, there's only silence. Then, the static returns, louder this time, almost buzzing. The camera's point of view shifts, as if someone else is holding it now. Tommy is still in the basement, but he's not alone anymore. In the background, shadowy figures begin to appear, just out of focus. They move strangely, their shapes flickering in and out of the light from the TV. Tommy calls out for Chuckie, for his mom and dad, but the only answer is the hum of the static and the faint sound of a lullaby playing somewhere far away. The episode lingers on Tommy's face as he looks around, confused and frightened. The shadows draw closer, and the camera zooms in until all you can see are Tommy's eyes, wide and glistening with tears. The screen flickers, and for a split second, you can see the other babies, Chuckie, Phil, Lil, even Angelica, standing in the shadows, their faces blank and expressionless. They don't move, don't speak, just stare at Tommy as the static grows louder. Suddenly, the TV in the corner flashes, and a distorted image appears on the screen. It's footage from earlier in the episode. Tommy and his friends playing in the living room, laughing and chasing each other. But the colors are wrong, the laughter warped and echoing. The image glitches, and the shadows in the basement seem to reach out toward the screen, as if trying to pull Tommy back into the memory. Tommy drops the camera, and the point of view tumbles to the floor. The last thing you see is his tiny hand reaching for the TV, the static reflecting in his eyes. The screen goes black again, and for a long moment, there's nothing but silence. According to the legend, the episode doesn't end there. Some people claim that if you keep watching, you'll hear faint whispers in the static, voices calling Tommy's name, begging him to come back. Others say the screen flickers one last time, showing a single frame of Tommy standing alone in the basement, his face pale and his eyes empty. The credits roll in silence with no music, just the low hum that's been building since the beginning. I tried to find proof of Tommy's missing tape, a clip, a screenshot, anything, but every time I got close, the trail went cold. Lost media forums are filled with people searching for the episode, trading stories and theories, but no one has ever produced a full recording. Some claim to have found old VHS tapes at garage sales or in thrift stores, but the footage is always corrupted, the audio warped and filled with static. Others say the episode is cursed, that anyone who watches it is plagued by nightmares of empty rooms and flickering screens. I kept searching, hoping to find someone who could confirm the story, or at least explain where it came from. I messaged old animators, scoured fan forums, and even reached out to people who claimed to have worked on Rugrats in the early days. Most never replied, or just laughed off my questions. But one night, I got an anonymous email. The subject line was blank, and the message was short. Don't look for it. Some tapes are missing for a reason. Attached was a single image, a blurry screenshot of Tommy in the basement, his face half lit by the glow of the static-filled TV. The quality was terrible, but I recognized the scene from the stories. In the background, the shadows seemed to twist and move, and if you looked closely, you could just make out the outline of the other babies, their faces blank and eyes wide. I stared at the image for a long time, feeling a chill run down my spine. Was it real, or just a clever fake? I couldn't tell, but I saved it anyway. After that, the dreams started. I'd find myself wandering through the Pickles house, the rooms empty and silent, the colors washed out and wrong. I'd hear the sound of static coming from behind a closed door, and when I opened it, I'd see Tommy standing in the basement, staring at the TV. Sometimes, I'd see the other babies in the shadows, their faces expressionless, their eyes following me as I tried to leave. I'd wake up sweating, the sound of static still ringing in my ears. I stopped searching for the tape after that. Every time I thought about it, I'd feel a wave of unease, as if something was warning me to leave it alone. But the story kept spreading. More people posted about their own experiences, strange dreams, corrupted files, TVs turning on by themselves late at night, always to a screen filled with static and the faint sound of a lullaby. Some fans started to believe that Tommy's missing tape wasn't just a lost episode, but a kind of curse, a story that infects anyone who hears about it, making them see things that aren't there, dream things they can't explain. Others said it was a metaphor for childhood fears, a way for the show's creators to explore the darker side of growing up. But no one could explain the details that kept cropping up. The static, the empty rooms, the sense that something was watching from the shadows. Now, whenever I see an old VHS tape, I feel a little uneasy. I remember the stories, the image in that email, the dreams that still haunt me, and I wonder if the episode is still out there, waiting for someone new to find it. I wish I could say the nightmares faded, that the story of Tommy's missing tape eventually became just another creepy internet rumor. But the truth is, it's always there, lurking in the back of my mind. Sometimes when I'm alone in a quiet room, I'll hear the faint hum of static, or the echo of Tommy's voice calling for his friends. I'll turn on the TV late at night and find the screen flickering, and for a split second, I'll see the basement door half open, with shadows moving just beyond the light. I've learned to live with it, in a way. I don't talk about the episode anymore, and I avoid anything to do with lost media, but every so often someone will bring it up, a friend, a stranger online, even a random post on social media. The details are always the same: the lost episode, the static, the empty rooms, the sense that something is watching from the shadows. And every time, I feel that old fear creeping back in, cold and sharp as the sound of a lullaby played on a broken music box. Some people say the episode is still out there, hidden on an old VHS tape in someone's attic, or buried deep in the archives of a forgotten server. Others believe it's just a story, a cautionary tale about the things we lose as we grow up, and the memories that fade with time. But those of us who've seen the images, who've heard the static in the dark, know better. We know that some stories have a way of sticking with you, of changing the way you see the world. Now, whenever I see Tommy on TV, I hesitate before watching. I remember the basement, the static, the way the shadows seem to move on their own. I wonder if the episode is still waiting for someone new to find it, someone new to carry the story forward. And I wonder if, somewhere out there, Tommy is still standing in that basement, reaching for the TV, his friends lost in the shadows. So if you ever hear about Tommy's missing tape, or find yourself tempted to search for lost episodes late at night, remember my story. Some things are better left lost. Some episodes are better left unwatched. And some memories, no matter how curious you are better left alone. Because once you've heard the static, once you've seen those empty eyes in the dark, you'll never look at Rugrats or your own childhood the same way again. I still get messages from people who stumble across the legend for the first time. They always start the same way: curiosity, a little skepticism, maybe even a joke about how a cartoon could be so unsettling. But after a while, the tone changes. They ask if I've ever really seen the episode, if the dreams ever stop, if the feeling of being watched ever goes away. I never know what to tell them. I want to say it's all just a story, that it can't hurt you if you don't believe in it. But I know better. Sometimes I wonder if the episode is more than just a lost piece of animation. Maybe it's a kind of test, a way to see who's willing to look too closely, to dig too deep. Maybe it's a warning, a reminder that some things are meant to stay hidden. Or maybe it's just a story that got out of control, spreading from one person to the next, growing darker and more twisted with every retelling. But every so often I'll hear from someone who claims they've found a copy, an old tape, a corrupted file, a link that only works once before disappearing forever. They always say the same thing: the episode is worse than they imagined. The colors are wrong, the sounds are distorted, and Tommy's eyes haunt their dreams for weeks afterward. Some say they can't watch Rugrats anymore. that the theme song makes them uneasy. Others say they hear a faint hum of static when they turn off the TV at night. I try not to think about it too much. I keep my lights on, my curtains closed, and my TV unplugged when I'm not using it. I avoid lost media forums, and I don't go looking for stories about cursed episodes. But the legend of Tommy's missing tape is always there, waiting in the background, a shadow at the edge of my vision. If you're reading this, maybe you're curious too. Maybe you think it's just a story, something to laugh about with your friends. But if you ever find yourself alone at night, with the sound of static in your ears and the feeling that someone is watching you from the dark, remember what I've told you. Some episodes are better left lost. Some stories are better left untold. And if you ever see Tommy standing alone in a basement, his eyes wide and empty, reaching for a TV that only shows static, turn it off. Walk away. Don't look back. Because in Tommy's missing tape, the real nightmare isn't what you see on the screen. It's what follows you when the episode ends. I wish I could say there's a way to shake the feeling, to break the spell that Tommy's missing tape leaves behind. But the truth is, once you know the story, it's hard to forget. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the flicker of a screen, in the uneasy silence that settles just before you fall asleep. I've learned to live with it, to keep my distance from old cartoons and lost media. But the memory is always there, waiting. Sometimes I'll catch myself glancing at the TV, half expecting to see Tommy's eyes staring back at me from the static. Other times, I'll hear a faint lullaby, like the one that played in the background of that episode, and I'll freeze, heart pounding, until I convince myself it's just the wind or a car passing outside. But deep down, I know better. I know that some stories have a way of reaching out, of finding you no matter how far you run. I've talked to others who feel the same. Some have tried to track down the episode, convinced that if they can just see it for themselves, the mystery will finally make sense. But every time, the trail goes cold. The files are corrupted. The tapes are blank. The links disappear as soon as you click them. It's as if the episode doesn't want to be found, or maybe as if it's waiting for the right person to find it. So if you ever hear about Tommy's missing tape, or if you find yourself drawn to stories about lost episodes and hidden secrets, remember this: curiosity can be dangerous. Some things are better left alone, no matter how tempting they seem. And if you ever see a flash of static and a pair of wide, empty eyes in the corner of your screen, don't look too closely. Don't listen to the lullaby. Don't try to remember the details. Because some episodes aren't just stories. Some episodes are warnings, and some nightmares, once they find you, never really let you go. So turn off the TV, close your laptop, and let the story fade. Trust me, there are some secrets you don't want to uncover, and Tommy's missing tape is one of them.